Right. Welcome to Branded Bank, the podcast you listen to when you've had a bad day at work. We're glad you're here. And today we are talking about from high school outcast to corporate outcast. Just kind of fun. I can definitely relate to that when the outsider experience doesn't end at graduation. It just relocates to the office. So Shauna, why do you think so many people who never fit in during high school find themselves facing the same dynamics at work? Is the corporate world just a grown-up version of the cafeteria?
That's a great question. I think yes. I think some people just never grow up. You look around and you see grown man boys, they're still acting like a frat house. They're just still rowdy. And likewise for women too. You see them and they're very catty and they're very cliquey. I mean, I've seen that even today, today's world, these grown women up in age and you're still being very cliquey and just gossipy and just trying to always have to put somebody down or say something bad about someone else because somehow that validates you. So yes, it doesn't stay in high school like you said. It just finds its way into the workplace, into society, and people just never grew up.
So, and why do you think that happens? Is there, like with the clicks and everything, is there a payoff for these people that are acting this way, clicky, excluding certain people, maybe saving seats in meetings and things like that?
I think it's validation. People want to feel like they they're validated. They want to feel like they're more important than they actually are. Some people, they walk into a room and they can command attention without even speaking a word. And then you have those people who they walk into a room and everybody has to know that they're there because they have to make you know they're there. They talk loud. They just act rowdy or they just do little catty things to make you notice that they're there. So I think I don't know. I just think that's what it is. People just
Yeah. It kind of made me think of my favorite bosses and favorite people to work with because they were quiet when they
yeah.
entered a room, right? But you knew they were there. Like, what is that? That's just, I don't know, just authentic and authenticity, genuineness that just shines.
Yeah. And I think too, when you know who you are, you don't have to show who you are, really. Like you said, people walk into a room and they're confident, they command respect without demanding respect, you know. So people see them and the way they carry themselves with poise, with dignity, respect, all of that, people look and they're like, wow, um, I gravitate towards that person because of their personality. But then you have on the flip side, the ones that don't.
Yeah. Okay. So if we're talking about corporate cliques, there are leadership favorites, there are different inner circles, social circles, and then I guess there's the corporate outcasts. Where would these authentic leaders exist, do you think?
I think they could fit in all categories, just
Mhm.
depending on the outsiders and how they view them. Because of course they would naturally fit in a leadership favorite because if you're polite, you're respectful, you command respect, and you have all these great things about you, people are naturally gonna be drawn towards you, right? And you're gonna be I mean, I have favorite people who are leaders and they're the least outgoing person ever, but they're more favorable because of just how they carry themselves. So I can see them fitting in that role. As far as a social circle too, yes, I can also see them fitting there as well because, they're so likable and everybody wants to be around them. So, I have people in my friend group that nobody wants to be around because you're always talking about yourself, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
It's exhausting. So people go towards the people who are more friendly and, you're outgoing, but you're respectful and all of that.
Yeah.
And then the inner circles in meeting, as a leader, I think you're naturally going to fall into the inner circle because you're a leader. So you're naturally going to be involved and knowing what's going on in the company, the who's who and all of that. So I can see a leader like that fitting in every different area. It just depends on how the outsider, the other people views them.
And I think if you are trustworthy,
Yeah.
people can trust that when they say things to you, when they confide in you, that everyone's not going to find out what's
I
going on,
really hear some stories about that.
right? And that you will handle things with tact, right?
Exactly.
Because naturally, being a leader, you're going to learn information before other people, and you have to know the right way to handle it that is just genuine, that isn't hurtful towards others. And that's not always an easy thing to do.
Yeah, but I mean, nobody wants a leader who talks, just talks out of turn and just talks about confidential matters to other people. You know, you can't have one employee or coworker talking to you, a leader, about something personal or even something work related that is personal to them, but then you're telling everybody else. You have to have some level of confidentiality regardless.
Completely.
And play some people don't like doing that, but sometimes you have to play the fence or play the field, however you want to say it. You can't let your right hand know what your left hand is doing. As a leader, you have to be able to keep that separate. Even if you're friends with one person or the other, you cannot let, because you have a friendship with an employee, trumps you being a leader and being confidential to another employee. You have to be able to separate those boundaries and keep those boundaries.
Yeah, that's so important. So I was an executive assistant at my first job out of college, and I learned that in that role specifically because you know everything that's going on in the C-suite, and that information can't be communicated to employees. There's always a divide between employees and the C-suite, right? And if certain information gets out, then it causes chaos.
Hmm.
So I guess it's kind of that way everywhere, like in leadership.
Yeah,
Everybody can't know everything.
exactly.
Yeah. So in both environments, I feel like belonging is social and it's not performance based. And that's kind of what bothered me. I've been working remotely since like 2015, and when I was working in an office, that's really what bothered me is I felt like I would work hard and I would get things done, but that didn't matter as much as being in a clique and being
Mhm.
social and chatting all day long and maybe not getting work done. It's so odd to me.
That's interesting that you say that. Because we, as human beings, as people, we naturally want to belong. We want to naturally feel like we matter and we have that social circle. So, yeah, we will tend to push our way or find our way, or however some people will weasel their way into a social circle, because it just gives you the sense of belonging, and everybody wants to feel wanted, everybody wants to feel needed, everybody wants to feel validated, or at least be seen, at minimum. So, do think that yes, in corporate environments, you know, it's easy to just do your work and go home, but everybody wants to show up at work and just feel like, you know what, I have a community of people that I can just have fun with, have a chat with, and just not feel so robotic and monotonous.
Yeah, yeah. That makes sense. So, where do you think the line is of feeling like you're good at your job and, you're getting your work done versus feeling like you're part of the culture, or do they go hand in hand?
Well, I think it can go hand in hand because, again, we talked about this on the last session, that you are paid to do a job, right? So that's your priorities, to do the job you're paid to do, not to socialize, right? Where I'm not paying you to come to work and sit down and bear chug, right? But you coming to work and doing your work and socializing kind of somewhat goes hand in hand, because if you feel like you belong and if you feel comfortable, you're more likely going to put in the effort and do your job. Nobody wants to come to work and just sit at their desk and hold their heads down and just kind of just feel like you're an outcast, like nobody sees you, nobody cares. you want to feel belonging. And when you feel belonging, you can talk to other people, you can bounce ideas off of them. I can throw you, hey, I'm swarmed, can you do this for me? And vice versa. So it goes hand in hand.
Yeah. So, have you ever felt like we both had like different jobs, right? Have you ever been in a position where you felt like you were overlooked or excluded? And what was the emotional toll of that?
Overlooked and excluded. Not blatantly, I would say, by management or anybody like that. But of course, there's cliques everywhere you go. And so you always have those people who they are very cliquey, they stick with themselves, they sit together at lunch, and yeah, so I've had that experience, but it wasn't blatant, like in your face, like, don't sit with us, sit over there. We're the cool kids, you're the not kid. No, it wasn't like that. But yeah, I've had instances where I've had to sit alone. Um, and I could see the cliques, they would sit together,
Yeah.
but I had the option to sit with them if I wanted to because it wasn't said, but it was not said.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just kind of like that weird vibe.
Yeah. Yeah, I can definitely remember, like when you mentioned click, I can picture this one click very clearly in my mind where they would, every meeting, every company meeting, everything that was ever done, they would save seats for each other. They wouldn't let other people sit with them. They would only go to lunch with each other. It was very
Oh,
petty, and
high
I
school.
guess they did it. I don't know why. I don't know why. I mean, you can go to lunch with other people. You can sit near other people. I don't understand. Yeah.
I mean, when you become an adult, keyword adult, right? You want to build relationships with a variety of people from diverse cultures, races, backgrounds, all of that.
You
You don't
think?
want to just stick with your little circle and stick with your little own because when you branch out, you learn from people. You learn people's experiences. You learn from people's likes and dislikes. You learn from people, teaching you how to ride a bike. I don't know, different things. But you never just want to limit yourself and be like, okay, so this is my friend from high school, and we have five of us, and we're going to bear it together. Like, come on, we're adults. We need to branch out and learn about other people. And you never know where a new relationship with somebody outside of your clique or your circle can take you. Because they always say, and I could be butchering this statement, but they say show me your five friends or something like that. Or if you're the smartest one in your group, you need to like branch out or something like that.
Yeah.
But you can't just limit yourself to the people that you know. It's okay to have your circle of friends who you confide in,
Mhm.
but it's also okay to have a community of people who you can talk to and get life experiences from. And I mean, all of my friends that I hang out with regularly, they're all 10 years or older than me. And I mean, the oldest one is like 78. That's that's the wide of a gap that I hang out with because I learned so much from them in business, in their personal life, and they're all women. So I know what to look forward to when I get to that age because and that's awesome to hear, what they've been through in life. So it's always good, yes, to keep your tight knit of people you can confide in and know that it will be repeated, but it's also good to expand your circle to learn from other people.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think what you said about diversity is very
Yeah.
important. The biggest lessons I've learned that I've carried through life have been from knowing someone who has had a different life experience than me, right? Because we only have our own experience. And if we're only spending time with people just like us, who look
Hello.
just like us, who act just like us, we're not learning anything else.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that group was definitely all the same in many, many ways. So maybe that's it. Maybe people are afraid sometimes
Yeah.
of differences. Maybe that scares them.
Yeah. And it could be too, people are afraid to let people in because trust is so hard to build. And it's so easy to be broken. And so you can spend a whole year building up trust with someone, and in a split second, they can do or say something to break that. And so it could be the fear of being hurt or being disappointed and let down, why some people just stick in their tight little circle and stick with their little cliques and stick with their own. But that's no fun way to live life. Life is about experiences. And so you learn
Absolutely.
from them.
Yeah, and I think so before you said, like, the 5 people you're around, I think it's 2 things. I think it's you're a combination of the 5 people you spend the most time with, and you never wanna be the smartest person in the room, in any room.
Yeah,
You're in the
you're
wrong
right.
room. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
That's exactly it.
2 good sayings.
Right. You always
Yeah.
want to be, expand your circle. Yeah.
That always gets me thinking. I'm like, "Who are my 5 people? And do your kids count?" I guess not, because that wouldn't be good. Yeah, so family doesn't count. So you're 5 friends. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Could be 5 friends. It could be 5 acquaintances in business or something. Just 5 people that you spend a lot of time with, that you bounce ideas off of, that you spend social time with. Just people you can grow from, learn from, all of that.
So, what if someone is struggling with feeling like an outcast in the corporate world? What would you tell them?
Yikes. Well, I would say the most obvious thing um I would suggest is to get in there, right? Go over to them, make friends, introduce yourself. I'm sure they already know you, but at least, make the effort. You be the bigger person, as they always say. And then if you still get rejected, that's okay. It's their loss because they're missing out on what an awesome person you are. They're missing out on what they could learn from you. And they're missing out on what you could contribute to their conversations, their lives. So that would be my first thing, is to just get in there and just try to introduce yourself, reintroduce yourself, and just try to make yourself be involved. And if that doesn't work and it's like blatant, disrespect, blatant, we don't want you around, just making mockery of you and just doing those mean girls, mean kid things, then I would just, separate yourself in your workplace, find people who will value you, find people who you matter to, and just build those relationships, because those cliques, they never last too long. Trust me. They think they're gonna go on forever, but mean girl, mean attitudes never last for long. Nobody likes a mean person. So slowly by slowly, people around them will start to back off, and they're just gonna be left with themselves. And they always say the worst person to live with is yourself when you're a mean person.
Yeah.
Your conscience will ride you to death. Okay.
Mhm.
You don't want
Yeah.
that. So that would be
'Cause
my advice.
yeah, because each of us have to live with all of the things that we have done in our lives, not what other people
Exactly.
have done. Yeah,
Exactly. And if those things aren't good, that conscience will just ride you to death.
absolutely. Absolutely. So I was definitely one of the outcasts in high school, like, smoking behind the bleachers or whatever. There were no bleachers, but it was like in the car in the parking lot. Whatever. I went from that to like the corporate world, and I definitely had social anxiety, that like imposter syndrome, right? I'm like, no, I was like the bad kid in high school. Now I'm in this office world where people are talking weird lingo I don't understand. So, my advice, what I did was like listen, learn the unwritten rules, kind of like conform a little bit with the sayings and things like that. And there will always be some kind of pressure to mask certain parts of your personality to gain acceptance in the corporate world. Try to figure out, bend a little bit, but don't break, you know, conform a little bit, but maintain who you are, and learn the people that you can form genuine relationships with, and those that you can, you know, create that can become acquaintances in the workplace that you can work cohesively together with, but maybe they won't be, going to happy hour with you after work and, going to your kids' birthday parties or whatever. But I think, and it depends on the size of your workplace, right? if you are in a workplace with only a few people, then you might have to look outside the workplace for those connections in the work world. You might have to do some networking events and things like that. But if there are, 50 or more people, you can find those different
Oh, yeah.
pockets. Yeah.
Find people who you're compatible with. You know, they're good people, they're kind, they respect others, they care about others. They treat others with dignity and respect, and just gravitate towards those people and build those relationships.
Yeah.
Besides, who
Absolutely.
wants
And
to be friends with a mean person anyway? It's exhausting.
it is exhausting. It really is. It's just tiring. Like there are people that feel that re-energize you and there are people that drain you. Lean towards the people that energize you. Like that's your automatic telltale sign.
Yeah, the people that drain you, they're called energy vampires. That's what they do.
Yeah,
They just suck the energy out of you. You don't want that at all.
not at all. If you hang out with someone and you're exhausted afterwards, maybe spend a little less time with them.
Yeah. Yep. Time to roll up the carpet.
Yeah. And if so, another thing that I used to have was pretty bad social anxiety. And so I would have to like play this game with myself. I'd be like, okay, have one conversation today with someone you don't regularly talk with. And then you do that and then you go up to two and three and then it does start to come naturally. I know a lot of people, maybe remote workers are returning to office life and things like that. So it might be a little bit of culture shock. So people might be experiencing this all over again.
Yeah, that's a good point too. I never thought of that. That a lot of companies are calling back their remote workers right now, and people have been working from home for years, and now you're back into a space where you've seen these people on the Zoom, but you've never like hung out with these people for 8, 9 hours in a day. And then now I spend 5 minutes with you on a Zoom versus 8 hours with you in an office. That's a whole different dynamic right there. And now I'm going to get to see your true self. I'm going to see your personality. I'm going to see how you like talk to me in person, because the tone in an email is kind of a different tone in person. So
Totally.
that you have to look forward to. And so I feel like people who are faced with that right now, I think pray to go in with the expectation of not having too much expectations, right? Just know
Absolutely.
that, yeah, just know that you're going to work, you're starting like a whole new social experiment again. You're kind of like really meeting these people for the first time, right? Because you've never really met them in person. And so now you're kind of like meeting them all over again. So it's going to be a lot of having conversations, testing the waters, not just coming in too hot and coming in too hard. Because some people, I know, like my personality, I don't like to meet people and they come in too hot. Like, take your time. I'm an outgoing person, I'm very extroverted, but I don't like when extroverted people talk to me. I know it's very weird. If you're an extrovert, don't talk to me. Like, just ease into it a little bit. And with some people just coming so hot and so hard, it's like, whoa, like, let's just breathe for a second. So you want to do that. You want to just take your time. Don't go in too hot. You want to just take your time, get to know people, have small conversations, like small little bite-sized conversations, and just let people warm up to you and let you warm up to people. I think one of the best relationships is the ones that are built naturally and they grow naturally, as opposed to the ones that are forced, right?
Right.
So I would suggest doing that. You're going back to work, just take your time, just approach with caution and just going soft.
Yeah.
Right?
That's
You don't want to rub people the wrong way.
yeah. That's really good advice because I think people might like we were talking about earlier, you want to feel like you belong, but you
Hmm.
can't force it because then you'll kind of break it before you have the chance to really build those bonds. So
People are
this is a long-term relationship, not
yeah,
a one night.
naturally people are fragile, fragile in the sense of our emotions. As much as we pretend to be tough and hard, we're fragile because that's just how we're built as human beings. And so you have to approach people with caution and respect, and not just, coming too aggressive, because it can really rub people the wrong way. And you can meet somebody today and you're like, oh, we hit it off. And tomorrow they're avoiding you. And you're like, oh my God, what did I do? She's not talking to me. Yeah, because yesterday you came in way too hot.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So take your time, get to know people slowly, and
Yes.
know that this is a long-term relationship. And you're going to see over time, you're going to see all the sides of each other, right? If you are together 8 hours a day, you're going to see each other stressed. You're going to see each other happy. You're going to see each other sad. There's going to be things going on at home that people have to deal with. So you have time. There's no
Yes.
rush.
There's no rush. I like that. I
Yeah.
like that.
Okay. So what have we learned today? What are our tips for the corporate outcast?
Well, one, I would say try to be nice and make friends. You know,
Mhm. Yeah.
don't just seclude yourself. You're an outcast, but still try to be the bigger person. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think embrace what makes you different because it's your greatest asset. Build relationships intentionally, not performatively. I think that was what we were saying in our last tip.
Right.
And also create your own career path instead of waiting for permission to belong. So if all else fails, forge your own path
Yes.
and others may follow.
Yeah. And some of the don'ts you shouldn't do is don't chase acceptance from these cliques. Just let them be. If they like you, they like you. If they don't, they don't. And if everybody likes you, you're doing something wrong anyways.
Yes, absolutely. I like
Don't
that.
chase acceptance. Yeah. And don't confuse visibility with value. Right. So don't think that because they see me now, there's a higher value on my performance, on me as a person in the workplace. Because even the quietest of people sometimes are the most productive and are the most successful.
Yeah, that's very true.
And don't dim your personality to make others comfortable. Oh my God, I have seen that so many times.
Yeah, that's a big one. That's a big one. Let
Yeah,
yourself shine.
let yourself shine. And if they don't like it, they don't have to be around you. But you should not downplay yourself, your abilities to make somebody else feel better about themselves. But with that said, be careful not to fall into the trap of being a narcissist.
Yes, don't be a narcissist, but don't dim your shine. I guess
Exactly.
that could be a fine line, right?
Yes. It is a
Give
fine.
other people I think so give yourself credit where credit's due, but give other people credit where credit's due. And
Exactly.
don't make everything about yourself.
Yeah.
I guess that's the line there.
That's
Yeah.
the line.
So, just a reminder, being an outsider doesn't mean you're not good enough. Often means you're just not meant to be a part of the system. You're meant to be beyond it. But we all kind of have to play the game, right? We all have to make a living. So, figure out some tips and tricks to fit in where you need to fit in and shine where you can.
All right, guys. Well, until next time, remember the people who change the world were rarely the ones who fit in.
All right. Don't forget to subscribe and share this a friend or a colleague that you like, and maybe even the ones who don't. Who knows? Maybe you can join their circle. And until next time, bye, guys.
Bye, guys.